welcome back to Geeks Assemble podcast, where we're reviewing Justice League, a movie with a villain called Steppenwolf, but I did not get to hear Born to Be Wild once. I'm Chance.
I'm Colby. You know you heard it in your head, though. We actually watched this separate. We a lot of times we try to watch these together. I watched it this weekend. You watched it just yesterday. We were recording on a Tuesday following its release. Lots to talk about. But where do you want to get started? Let's just jump in. We're assuming you've seen the movie. All 10 of you, according to the box office. But we hope you're listening, and you'll get somebody else to go watch it. I start off the bat with jokes, but anyways, lowest perform. I guess we can start there. Lowest performing box office for a DC movie in this. Call it extended universe, call it whatever you want, DCEU, or call it nothing at all. But lowest performer, which is crazy to me. Even lower than Man of Steel that started all this off. But what do you think? I mean, how do we take that? Like, I'm all like sunshines and rainbows. But it's crazy because we could conceive, we're going to talk about the movie obviously, but we could talk quite a bit about what this could portend for the genre, if you will, of comic book movies.
So what is the hierarchy right now that we're looking at? Which one was the highest grossed DC movie so far? There's a lot. Besides Wonder Woman. Probably.
No, Wonder Woman total was the highest performing of these movies that have been since Man of Steel, and we're not considering Nolan. It's its own separate thing, the Nolan trilogy, and anything prior to that. We're talking about these movies that are interconnected, a la Marvel. They've said that the DC Extended Universe was just a label that they didn't choose but got put upon them. I don't remember how, but there's lots of articles that talk about it. But of those movies that have come post Man of Steel, those include Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice, Suicide Squad, Wonder Woman, and now Justice League. So out of those 5 movies, we have the lowest opening weekend being with Justice League, which should be the culmination of many things. This should be the end of a phase, if you will.
So which did better, Man of Steel or Batman vs Superman?
Oh, Batman vs Superman by and large. It grew. It wasn't that it set the world on fire. It did very well, but it's not like a top 10 of all time box office or anything, which some thought it could be with the combined might of merchandising might of Batman and Superman and all the fans that come either for both or as each one. But Batman v Superman did all right. Suicide Squad surprised a lot of people with its box office, which was admirable considering being that it was a villain-centric movie, and then also just considering the quality of the movie. Hi-oh. But I wasn't a big fan of it. But Wonder Woman I was a fan of Wonder Woman. That was our first episode. Was talking about it. And it's done very, very well. It's done above their estimates. And then now we get to Justice League.
So you think this is kind of like the response to a little bit of the meh or the negative feedback that Batman vs Superman got?
It could be for many things, but it could also be bad scheduling. November has never been a time to bring out the movies that it's just going to light the world on fire. Somebody would say, well, what about Thanksgiving? Well, yes, Thanksgiving weekend can be big, but Thanksgiving weekend is big typically for family-centric movies. Not to say that this wasn't geared towards some families. I mean, I went with my daughter to see it. You could take your kids to see it if you so choose, but the weekend following will be Coco, a Disney movie that will come out, and Coco is already never been released here in America, but it's been released in Mexico for like a couple weeks. It's already the highest grossing movie in Mexican box office history of all time. So next week does not look good potentially for Justice League. It needed a strong opening. It did not get the strong opening, and so we don't know. We're recording this a few days after its wide release. It's made 250 plus worldwide. It did pretty well overseas. So as far as its reported production budget, I think it'll make it. Add to that its marketing budget, that's anybody's guess. But it could be a movie that doesn't break even, essentially. And it's a little too early to tell that. But I'm hoping that this is a problem of scheduling and other factors, not that people are tired of comic book movies, because what else are you and I going to talk about if they stop making those? Because we enjoy them, and we have, I think our people who listen enjoy them too. But
you said a little bit on the fact that it came out in November, but I think Thor Ragnarok did pretty decent.
So. Marvel throws it all the rules out the window. Marvel can bring out now 3 movies a year and break every conventional record just because of its brand. It's established. It's earned audience trust. I mean, inevitably, you can't talk about these DC movies without talking about Marvel. It's not necessarily fanboyism to bring it up. It's just a fact. And Marvel came out first. It wrote the rules, continues to write the rules on what these movies are about, and people are eating it up. DC has been playing catch up. There's no denying that. I mean, Man of Steel came out in 2013, 5 years after Iron Man started all this. They were always going to play catch up. It was just what they were going to do. So, yeah, Marvel can come out with a movie, like 2 weeks prior and just kill it. But the same rules don't apply. I don't know. It's hard to say. What reason I even bring up the box office is I hope, we have in production now Aquaman deep into production, like maybe even finished filming. We have Wonder Woman 2 in the works. We have Flashpoint in the works. Obviously, those are an extension of movies. They're sequels or extensions of these characters that we now are knowing through Justice League and Wonder Woman. But when that exciting moment that this movie should be fades and fizzles at the box office opening weekend, who knows what's going to happen? I mean, these characters, as we're going to talk about them, they could potentially, this could be the one time we get to see all of these characters on screen for some time. Even though, of course, it's been decades in print and there's been animation and movies, this is the first live action movie that we've gotten to see these characters in side by side, and it could be the first time, or the only time we see it for quite some time.
Well, let's go right to the actual movie itself.
Let's do it. Yeah.
The introductory of the movie, I thought was actually pretty neat, and it served its purpose. We got it was a song everybody knows. That's the song title, not
that everybody knows it. I was scratching my head a little bit, just to be honest about it.
Yeah, Leonard Cohen and Sharon Robinson. I'm assuming Sharon Robinson was the performer, but I don't know that for sure. But the glimpse you got into like what the world is like without Superman, and seeing all the hopelessness on faces, and some of it seemed like really interesting and very direct, as in crimes are going up and all this, even just from not regular crimes.
World. Yeah,
like one of the main things it focused on was a crime of bigotry. There was a guy standing in the storefront of an establishment.
Oh yeah, I know what shot you're talking about. Yeah,
by Middle Eastern people or something like that.
Yeah,
and getting violent, and the cops having to subdue him, and then it shows a homeless guy just staring off into space. Like, I guess Superman was responsible for homelessness. I guess, I don't know.
In these movies, potentially, but no, I thought visually it told a lot. I wasn't a fan of the song choice myself, but I thought, yeah, it told a lot, but the song to me was actually distracting because the lyrics and everything that went with it just didn't seem to fit. I was thinking, where's this going with it? Now, it would be interesting to me to think, was this opening a choice of Zack Snyder, or was it a choice of Joss Whedon? And I think it was a choice of Zack Snyder. Like you said, Leonard Cohen is involved in the song. He's used Cohen songs before, like Watchmen and some of his past movies. So this could have always been planned to be the original opening. And I think until we get, and I know inevitably we will, because for video releases we've now Now, I say that except for Wonder Woman. We didn't with Wonder Woman. I think the cut we got was the one the director intended with Wonder Woman. But with Batman v Superman and with Suicide Squad, we've gotten these extended director cuts that many people say are far superior to anything than what people saw in theaters. That basically, if you weren't a fan of the originals, check this out because it might convert you. It would be interesting to see if we get a Zack Snyder cut. Just like Superman 2 years ago, they went back and did a Richard Donner cut and changed things, tried to make it more like he wanted the movie before he was let go of the project. It would be interesting to see if we get a Zack Snyder cut, at least in some form or fashion, because it'll probably come up again. I am very interested in seeing that as a result of what we got with the movie. But the song was, I just wasn't a fan of it. But visually, that was a very cool opening.
I thought they fit together pretty decently. I mean, obviously the lyrics weren't 100% depicting what's going on now, but it was, I think it was very indicative of the mood that was going on in the world right now, where everyone feels like, well, now that this, beacon of hope that's now gone, now we're realizing how it really is. It's just, you can't get ahead. You're, everything's rigged.
Yeah.
Just that hopelessness.
Before we get to that, that's not the true introduction. The true introduction is that distractingly bad CGI job of hiding Henry Cavill's mustache in that cell phone footage. That didn't throw you out of the movie? Oh my. I was like, are you serious? Now, there's other shots later in the movie that are the same way. For whatever reason, that opening shot, it lowers his mouth, so he has this big, huge upper lip in those shots, and so he's kind of just got this strange look on his face, as he's... But then later in the movie, as I've seen pictures pop up online, it's like they take his mouth and they raise it up so he has this huge chin.
You know what? I did notice
a cartoon chin.
I didn't notice it till he actually came back.
Yeah.
In the movie.
Yeah.
But it really did look
to me like he had his mouth. It looks like he's got this bad Snapchat filter over his face, especially in the opening part because it's meant to be on a cell phone, But I just thought, oh man, how unfortunate. I just think that now for that one they had to. We will go ahead and talk about the mustache. They had to take the mustache out because it was prior to him dying. But okay, so if a body dies in the casket, hair continues to grow, from what I understand. Him having a beard or a mustache or facial hair would have been perfectly okay for him to emerge with facial hair and then roll with it, refilm that footage. I think it might have been easier for them to add a digital beard than to take away what was on his face. And I'm okay with a bearded Superman. We've actually already gotten that in Man of Steel. And it looked pretty cool. I mean, not to say he would always have it, but I just think they spent a lot of money. No one knows yet how much. They spent a lot of money, all reports say, to get rid of his mustache or facial hair. And it just, what we got was distractingly bad. And it just set a bad tone for the movie. And that was a scene that was cool. I mean, but I think they could have told the same story had they just took that cell phone thing out and just went first thing you see, Superman dead. I mean, even more effective, I think, than showing, with little kids, Superman, just he's dead. And it would be pretty much a direct pickup from Batman versus Superman. But anyways.
Yeah, and then we get a glimpse into the other heroes as well, first starting off with just Batman and Wonder Woman trying to figure out how.
As I watched it, I was thinking of you about Batman. I wanted to know what is Chance going to think about Batman's first scene in this movie. What did you think?
I mean, I didn't have a problem. I mean, actually, it was kind of refreshing to see him actually fighting crime and I mean, to an extent, I thought maybe he was kind of going to revert back a little bit to his old ways when he's dangling someone off of a roof to get answers or whatever. But the communication with Alfred while using technology and just the fact that he didn't need a gun and he just subdued a guy with a gun that knew he was there.
Now, if they had how do you say it? Okay, so if Matt Reeves, who's supposed to direct the Batman, the next Batman movie following these movies, if he made an entire movie in that style that scene was, just that scene, would you be all right with it?
I mean, I suppose so. Yeah.
It felt very gritty, but it did feel a little. Special effects or the look of it took me out a little bit. But how they did the scene was great. It felt like comic panels, more so than really any of the movies.
I haven't had much problem with Batman, but I've had a little bit of trouble with Bruce Wayne.
Yeah, I was gonna get to that.
And
too.
it had nothing to do with Affleck's portrayal per se. I think it was just kind of how it was written, because he's very chatty. Bruce Wayne is just very chatty.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who it is, just met you or I've known you all my life. He talks to him the same amount, and that's just not how he is as a person, especially when he's talking about business, like his Batman business.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very he brings it up several times in the Justice League cartoons and all that. He's literally said, "I'm not a people person," and that's just a character trait. He's very useful. He's very calculating. He's very good at preparation and anticipating upcoming events, but he's not a very good people person, because he enjoys solitude. He enjoys living in living remote from
people
else.
There are of course like the Nolan movies where Bruce Wayne is a facade. I mean, he recreate, as far as the public eye, he's almost flamboyant a little bit. I mean, that's not the right word, but he puts on a play for folks. So in media, there is this idea that he could be very chatty. But no, I agree with you there. I would have rather him been a little more brooding. And brooding does not necessarily mean that you speak with a growl a little bit. Like even as Bruce, it felt like he starts to do that. I kind of felt. I mean, I've already reviewed the film from when I write a review, but I just thought that with Affleck, he's seeming to be a little bored. Like, and it's not so much with Batman. It's more when he's Bruce Wayne, and he is inarguably really the lead of this. I mean, he's the one getting the team together. He's the one who has a very firm stance when it comes to like a division in the team. So for him to feel like, to come out of the movie and feel like he was bored with it, that's saying a lot about how the movie turns out. He's an integral character.
That's kind of a dichotomy situation of what I've pondered throughout the movie, was wondering if it would have been better if Wonder Woman was the leader.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Instead of Batman, because like I said, Batman's not a people person, but it wouldn't be out of character for him to be like, I know this is a threat I can't handle, so I've got to assemble people who can help me.
Had that reversed, like they've portrayed Wonder Woman through this now, like, okay, so the original movie her movie was set during like World War II, and then we think that Wonder Woman 2 will somehow fill in some gaps there, have some kind of adventure between then and now, but the movie addresses, and the audience has kind of picked up on the pieces that she has kind of largely retired from helping and being a part, like she's an art curator or something in a museum, but she's not really a crime fighter or a superhero until these events. You know, we got her stepping in on Batman v Superman to battle Doomsday.
Well, see, that's hard to say as well, because as soon as like our first introduction to Wonder Woman in the movie is her handling an event that has nothing to do with the main plot line. Some people show up.
That's what I mean. That's what I get. Like, that's where I'm going. Is so like you have that, and following what you were saying is, if she was this agent of, okay, at the end of Batman v Superman, instead of him, we got to get together a team, she had been the one to say it.
Because she's used to working with a whole bunch of people, and even in like the main, the story going back to their main first fight with Steppenwolf, and like they united several people.
Yes, like as an Amazonian, if she had been the one to, we've got to take care of this. And Bruce, like you said, okay, so he has some guilt. He says she has guilt over Trevor dying, but he has guilt over Superman dying, if he had been the one that was reclusing and pulling back, I've been in this 20 years and I'm just a man. Yeah, I'm a well-equipped man, but I'm just a man. And had she been the one to be like, we have to bring a team, and she had stepped up at the end of Batman versus Superman to be this proponent of it all, I'm telling you, I think that would have done wonders for this movie.
And and I have to make a judgment call about it too. I'm going to go ahead and say that it probably would have been better straight off if Wonder Woman was the leader, and Batman was to make up for, like you said,
the guilt or whatever.
The guilt that he insisted and was stubborn that he work alone. Mm-hmm. This is, I have to do this, kind of like make it up to him type thing. Superman did it alone. I need to do it alone.
Well, and after Robin has died, remember that in Batman vs Superman, whichever Robin, we don't know, but a Robin, Jason Todd or whoever, has died at his lead.
I would have lost if Robin was in this movie. If he would have got another Robin, and it doesn't even matter which one. If he would have just had a Robin in this movie, it would have felt a lot.
14 out of 10 stars.
Right. No. But having Wonder Woman as the leader, Batman on the side doing his own operations, because he can work on his own as far as information wise. Mm-hmm. It's just when it comes to the fight of being able to take down supernatural beings and all that, then coming together, towards the big fight, realizing that our goals align, so we'll work together for now. That's Batman.
That's Batman, but you mean not Dr. Frankenstein? That's what it turned into. This movie, he becomes Frankenstein. And it feels, you could bring back Superman all different kinds of ways. You could just have him crack the casket open. And just be, his casket rumbled at the end of Batman versus Superman anyway. So you remember that shot. Like, that's how the movie ends. Yeah. So, the fact that he goes all like, let's take him and put him in here and let's bring him back to life. And, and then, of course, they have arguments about that. Like, you don't even have to go there with it. Like, just bring him back.
Want to do it.
And yeah. So I don't know. Not to nitpick, but I do think, not that we're being egotistical about it or anything, but I think that could have led to a better perception of these characters. And while we're on the topic of Wonder Woman, let's just talk about it. We've come from a movie that was centered on a female character, handled by a female director, filmmaker, Patty Jenkins, and has been nothing but praise. And then we come to this movie, which we tend to forget that Wonder Woman came to live action movies at the hand of Zack Snyder at the end of Batman vs. Superman. But now back under his direction, and Joss Whedon, but back under his direction, and she feels not entirely different, but in many ways she feels very different. Like, she's handled differently than she was in her solo movie. And I know a lot of people have taken issue with it. Shots linger on her body. Things are brought up about her.
I was going to bring that up.
Yeah.
See, and I have that on our list of of
the shots were like, I don't know, like it felt like, okay, so we looked at her through the lens of a woman looking at a woman, and now we have back to a man looking at a woman, and it's just like in the midst of all the headlines of all this sexual abuse coming to light and harassment that's coming to light. As we record this, it seems like every day there's some other celebrity or politician or person of influence that's done things, said things they shouldn't have done or said. And here we are, what's supposed to be the number one movie. It is the number one movie of the weekend, but what's supposed to be this big blockbuster, and we're seeing these criticisms on the screen.
It's even more so that I don't look for that type of thing.
But you still noticed it,
but
right?
It was just forcefully, like I could see that, because it was very with like music choices and like the tons of like slow motion shots, and it seemed like Wonder Woman got like 90% of them. Mm-hmm. And it was very much seemed like he was going like more in a Watchmen direction than trying to take a different different route than he normally does. So, and the shots seemed to be centered on, even like in the slow motion of her doing leg kicks and stuff, there seemed to be like a lot of upskirts. And even in like scenes where other people are there, the camera was focused like the left side of the screen.
Low shots on her. Yeah.
It's always low shots.
I don't know. It just felt like a very big step backwards. And I don't think either one of us would call ourselves like a SJW or whatever. We're not just sitting around stirring the pot on issues.
No, I said, I don't even look for that. But the fact that I could see that and point that out, then I think that just says something about how whether it was intentional or not, I think it'd be very hard to make the argument that it wasn't intentional.
Because it was it felt very blatant.
Yeah. But, I mean, that was just me.
What about these new characters, though? Really, because these others we've talked about so far, they're established in this film universe. But Flash, Cyborg, Aquaman.
I feel bad for Flash because you get a bad first impression in the movie. His first impression being him sitting talking with his dad on the other side of glass.
It's an odd way to start it.
There was no emotion, like, at all. Like, they throw you in there and you feel like you're starting a movie like 3/4 of the way through.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, there's supposed to be some background or something there, but there's no emotion.
And do you watch the Flash TV show?
I've seen some.
Some of it, okay.
Yeah.
But I mean, you're familiar, obviously, with the character of Flash and everything that's going on. You and I come into the movie, we know exactly what's going on. Like, he's talking to his dad. We know why his dad's in jail. We know why mom's not there. We know all of these things, but we read comics. We're exactly who they want to be there at the movie. But then you have people like, well, my daughter was there with me watching the movie. She's 9 years old. She's had 9 years to learn Flash history. There's a whole lot of other stuff she's learned. She's dropped in the middle of a scene where, like you said, who knows up from down. It did feel like that felt like a solo movie scene. And spliced into the middle of it. And it wasn't that it was bad. I really liked that they picked Billy Crudup to be his dad. Like, I like Billy Crudup. He was great. Love it or hate it, the Watchmen movie, I thought he was excellent as Dr. Manhattan. But as far as for this movie, I just thought that there's a whole lot more that we need to know. And if that's say that scene, there are two scenes with him and his dad in the movie. If that is all the emotional connection that we bring into Flashpoint, we are already at a disadvantage, because Flashpoint is about shaking up a world. You cannot establish the stakes of Flashpoint with two jail scenes. You just can't do it, because you have to shake up the entirety, not only of the DC universe, you have to shake up the entirety of everything that Barry's ever known. We can't learn it in two scenes, but that's essentially what's going to happen, because I can't see Flash for any reason coming into the picture for Wonder Woman 2 if it comes first, or for Aquaman. I mean, Aquaman's going to be the next movie, or Batman. I mean, so us getting that connection, I'm right there with you. I think that Flash is getting the short end of the stick. A lot of his jokes didn't work. But he was good in the movie, but the material is not 100% for sure.
Yeah, the main chunk of Flash, I didn't have really that much issue with. I mean, like he said, and he even presented it for it as himself. Like, I've never done battle.
yeah.
Like, I've always just
pushed people and ran. That's funny. Like, that's good.
So it makes sense that when he's going against other superhuman beings, that it trips him up.
Yeah,
he trips a lot, or that he's not quite where he needs to be as a hero.
And arguably, he's the youngest on the team. Cyborg and him might be similar in age, but I can't see him being any really older than Cyborg. So he's the youngest. His position on that, like, I just push him and ran, I've never battled, was great. That was a great joke. But we need more of those jokes. Like, Flash was good. I wanted him to be great. I've never been a fan of that costume since the time I saw it. I understand it. Like, it's like a silicone, like a sand based, for as far as for the friction with his speed. I get it. I just don't like the way it looks with the plates and all. It's just not my cup of tea. I still don't love the costume on the TV show. There's things I don't like about it, but it's hard to get Flash right. I mean, he's just solid red with a little yellow, and bringing that into the real world is difficult. I've seen lots of good cosplayers bring the page to screen, and it still doesn't look right.
I initially had problems with Flash's costume. Maybe it doesn't look the best it could possibly look, but I don't have a problem with the armor plating and everything, as it was. What I've read and explained to me was the fact that he doesn't have really any powers other than he can run fast and can heal quickly. Those types of things. Anything to do with speed, mostly. But he's not tough. Like,
no, not at all. Yeah.
So the armor plating and stuff on there that you would get from that kind of thing would make sense. And the fact you're going fast, Yeah.
Like I said, I get it. It's just something about it visually. And on the poster for the movie, you have him with the red like paint around his eyes. Do you notice that? But in the movie, you never have it, and that's fine. But it feels very weird, little touches like that. Like in the marketing, they show him one way and the other. I prefer him the way he is in the movie. I don't want like the red paint around his eyes, but it just felt weird they'd do it in one place and not the other. But Cyborg, I liked Cyborg. Now, keep in mind, this is an actor who's like, I think Ray Fisher, he's a stage actor. He's never had a big budget Hollywood movie before that I'm aware of. But I thought he held his own. I mean, with the exception of... Now, Jason Momoa, a few years ago, he was put in the lead role in the Conan reboot. It really didn't go anywhere. But he's mostly been a TV guy and like streaming shows guy. He's not really been in a big movie either, but... Ray Fisher coming on the scene to be handed this role, I thought he did very well with Cyborg. And out of the subplots, I think he probably gets more than anybody as far as understanding who he is of the new characters.
Cyborg was very, you really get the struggle that a lot of people would see him as, wow, I mean, you're this big mechanized man and all this stuff you can do. Yeah. And he's just like, I mean, it's a burden I never wanted. I was got a scholarship to a university to play football, and that's the life I wanted.
Yeah, and he could have died. He did die. Like he died, but his dad brought him back to life. We already have a Frankenstein story with Cyborg. We get another one later, but he was dead for all intents and purposes, and his dad brought him back with the mother box. We'll get to those in a little bit, but he. Yeah, it's not a life he asked for. I mean, and when he's around, like, as he tries to put the hoodie on, it's kind of like the arc reactor with Iron Man. Like, it shines through the clothes. His eye, doesn't matter how he covers up, it shows. Like, he cannot hide who he is. Like, as the character goes on and he upgrades, which he did do in the movie, maybe he'll get to an appearance, because Cyborg's been drawn different ways. Maybe he'll get to an appearance that's a little more... human, but he can never be like you and I. It doesn't matter how much he tries.
And I remember he had some pretty good lines in the movie to kind of illustrate that. One in particular that I remember was when Wonder Woman met up with him and said, with your gifts, there's so much we can do. And he said, gifts? And he said, if this is a gift, then why am I the one paying for it?
Yeah. I mean, I want to see, regardless of what happens with these movies, I do want to see a Cyborg movie. And in Cyborg, I mean, let's be real. He was the newest addition to like that new 52 style Justice League. He had a lot to prove. He's mainly been in Teen Titans. He's not a classic Justice League character in the sense of all the way back. So he had the most to prove. And I think, as far as his character is concerned, he was well done. Aquaman. Are you a fan?
I didn't like the portrayal
at all, or
not a whole lot. No.
Yeah.
I think they were so worried about people caring at all about the Aquaman character
that they just created this whole other.
They went the way other extreme, try to make him way more than, or I mean not way more, but way more mainstream and like I can't even think macho than he really is.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. And I don't think it was just necessarily Jason Momoa's fault. I
don't think so at all either.
I think it was just the fact that they turned him into this like booze hound uncle that he was in this whole movie that I don't know. There's just nothing about Aquaman that you can relate to. He's just this throwaway character who they put in the movie.
Well, it's funny because so Aquaman, yes, he's in the New 52. But of the characters that have been in Justice League in that classic lineup, he's probably the first one that could go. They had a lot to prove in bringing Aquaman to it. The fact we're getting an Aquaman movie is insane. It was a joke. I never watched the show on HBO, but on Entourage for years, there was this subplot about one of the characters being, I think, cast in an Aquaman movie. It was this big joke, And so the fact that we're getting one is crazy. At first, I wasn't a fan of Jason Momoa being cast because it was obvious from the first image, like it's going to be different. The most that he looks like Aquaman is from that 90s run, whenever he lost an arm and he had like a harpoon. and he had the long beard and the long hair. Of course, he was bright blonde, as he's always been drawn, but that is what I thought they were going for with Momoa. Had they took his arm off and just went all in with that, like establish him that way, I think it would have been to the benefit of what they were doing. Like, make him, the reason he's so grizzled and doesn't care is because he's been hurt. Now, we're going to see in the movie, with his Aquaman movie, what they're doing there, but had they shown him a little more damage, kind of like Cyborg, I think that it would... DC's going into this approach with these movies of, well, we're going to just throw them in there and we'll tell their stories later, right? Because we're getting the solo movies for these characters after the team up. Had they shown a little more of his journey with an arm lopped off and he's got a harpoon arm, like, that would be visually crazy, you know?
But he got all that and so from being king of Atlantis. Like,
yes.
There's nothing kingly about him.
Not at all. You're right.
But I don't think he was king of Atlantis in this one.
No. That's probably what we're going to see in a movie. I mean, I don't know what they're going to tell there because, as we've said, they've kind of reinterpreted the character to a degree. But I did think that, okay, if you give the inevitable comparisons to the Avengers, then visually and thematically his character is reminiscent of Thor. But that's where the comparisons would end. So they've really doubled down on this, like, you know, guy in the corner, like, what are you guys up to? Like, I have nothing in common with you guys. Like, that type of character, I think it works to a degree. I didn't think they gave him enough to do. His best scene was when the lasso made him tell the truth, so to speak.
He sat on the lasso.
He sat on the lasso. I mean, there are moments like that throughout the movie that aren't that bad, but there's a lot of other ones that keep it from being everything it needs to be.
Just like drinking booze every time he's just like a biker dude. Like this, I mean, how would anybody relate to Aquaman instead of like, oh man, he's awesome?
Well, but you say that it may not be relatable to us, but there are guys out there that are like, man,
well, there's
bro,
no substance
he's awesome.
to it.
I get it, but I mean, I could see them thinking, oh, well, here's a type of character we haven't looked at yet. Maybe there's a reason we haven't because, like you said, it may not be that relatable. But
I mean, he was more Lobo than he was Aquaman.
I will give you that. And it's funny you mentioned that because I think my dad and I were talking. He said the same thing. He was like, that's Lobo. But yeah, so now we have Lobo under the sea with Aquaman. But I think we've addressed all the heroes. Sadly, we're lacking probably my favorite. They're lacking some green.
That was I was not expecting that really. I mean, I was really hoping to see Green.
I wanted a surprise. I wanted at least an after credit sequence, something.
But seeing them talk about the war or whatever, and seeing
you see some old lanterns.
People come from even like other planets and stuff, and you see a Green Lantern like smash some dude with a green hammer.
Cool. That was cool. So I mean, I guess yes, we did get a Green Lantern, but okay.
They opened it up because
here's the crap about it though. This is what really ticks me off about it. Is when the movie was first announced and they were starting the promotionals, they showed the picture of Jason Momoa as Aquaman. That was his first image, and overlaid over the top of it says "Unite the Seven." Now, spoiler or whatever, we know we get Superman. We got 6 people in this movie. Unless you count Alfred as the 7th, we never united the 7 in this movie, and that really aggravated me because you cannot have Justice League without Green Lantern. Like, yeah, you can have a flashback. You can show Green Lanterns, but I want Green Lantern. Like, he is an integral part, has always been since day one of Justice League. And, you know, Hal Jordan, whoever you want to call as Green Lantern, I'd have been fine with Jon Stewart popping up. Because we have seen Hal Jordan, played by Ryan Reynolds in the movie, I think it was 2011.
We don't talk about that.
We're not talking about it. It's been redacted. But, I mean, we've seen him visually in a big screen movie before. But just because that movie didn't go over well and it's not a part of all of this now doesn't mean to me that we could just act like, well, we can just gloss past him. I mean, if you're going to have a Justice League, you got to have Green Lantern. Well, a Green Lantern, period.
Well, they're missing 3 greens in here. They're missing, green in one way or the other. They're missing Green Arrow, Green Lantern, and Martian Manhunter.
They're missing 4. Green money. They didn't make enough money this weekend.
But... Two of the greens.
Martian Manhunter, yes.
But yeah, two of those greens were what links Justice League to on a cosmic level, on what they do on an intergalactic level.
Absolutely.
And I mean, arguably Green Lantern does that far more than Martian Manhunter would. Yeah. But I mean, of those two, I mean, that's really what you really need one of those to be able to tell any kind of like
If these movies, story. Like, okay, so we don't know yet how this is all going to pan out, but if this series, so to speak, were to be successful down the line and necessitate more sequels, it would be egregious to me that they not include Martian Manhunter. They have to. Like, to me, and it's not just an animated series thing. I mean, issue 1 of Justice League, decades ago, he's there with the lineup. I know they went with a more modern Justice League lineup, including Cyborg, but he has an integral part there. If you notice, especially in the cartoon, Martian Manhunter was rarely in the action, but he was always in the Watchtower. I mean, he's always a part of... When the rest of them have their human lives, he really doesn't. But he's observing and he's literally in the Watchtower, but he's watching out for things and for threats.
Well, he's like Justice League's Vision.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I get that comparison, but I think that he has to come into the mix if these movies continue. But yeah, I was really ticked. No Green Lantern. Green Arrow, yeah, whatever, but
because I'd love
Martian
to see
Manhunter too.
I'd love to see some good. I mean, you see a little bit with Superman of his stories of being an alien and no one, or people actually just refusing,
not relating,
you know, not able to relate to you as a person, but actually separating themselves voluntarily from you and in a segregation type of level. Because the Martian Manhunter, he's got some good things that's happened to him story wise. I mean, interesting stuff, I should say. And I think it was in an Injustice comic that I read this once, where there was a dispute between Wonder Woman and Martian Manhunter, and or maybe it was Martian Manhunter and Superman, and Wonder Woman intervened. She took Superman's side, and while they're fighting, Martian Manhunter says that we both were aliens, but you've always chosen the ones that look like you.
Oh, that's so good. Yeah.
But I mean, just some really interesting things about being an outcast or being.
And honestly, if this series continues, I can see Cyborg and a Martian Manhunter character really hitting it off, like because they have obvious they're almost human. They are human, you know. They are as far as thinking and breathing and feeling, but they have that level. That's all you have to be human. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, but they have an instant relatability that I think would be really cool. We were talking about Flash. I do want to bring up whenever they were digging up the casket, Flash should have got that done a lot quicker than the two of them working together. I mean, it should have been like Cyborg just sat back and just said, "Hey, get after it,"
No, he mentioned that though.
He did
during that scene when he's with Cyborg. He says, "I feel like I could do this a lot faster, but it feels wrong to be digging up a body."
I did not catch that.
Yeah, he says it feels wrong. This feels wrong. Basically, was just the main premise that he didn't. That's why he was going so slow. He was being very contemplative about what he was digging up a dead body.
I see. What about the villains? I'm going to let you go with that, man.
Well, you got Steppenwolf. You got Parademons in there. That's
let's handle that first, I guess. Serviceable. That's the best I can say.
I guess I'm not familiar enough with the villains per se of DC in that realm. I mean, it's hard to say you're not a fan, or not a fan, but you're not as familiar with villains as prolific as Darkseid or in his surrounding people. Well, but I'm just not that familiar with Steppenwolf individually. I didn't think he was that major a figure, but maybe so I'm incorrect in that.
If Thanos is the big bad of Marvel, their cinematic universe, then almost by mirror image, then Darkseid would be the big bad of this. But because they're just jumping into the midst of everything, I don't know why they're playing coy with a Darkseid reveal. They did everything but show him. Like okay, so the flashback scene of in Batman v Superman, you had the Omega symbol, burn into the land. You had parademons then. Now you have Steppenwolf, like this herald almost of Darkseid. You have him name dropped, but you don't ever see him. Like, not even in the flashbacks. Like, it was all Steppenwolf. I don't know why they're so coy with it. Like, everything else about this universe has been like, let's just throw it out there and let's get it started. Like, I don't know why they would be coy about him. I think this movie would have been better, and what's crazy is it would have been the exact same as far as a practical level had it been Darkseid instead of Steppenwolf. Like, had it been Darkseid that showed up, the stakes would have been raised for fans, as aside from Steppenwolf. Because, again, even people who read somewhat, not casual fans, but people, if you've not really dug in and saw Steppenwolf, it's like, who? I mean, but if you have Darkseid, like, there is a familiarity. As I was a kid, there was a game, Justice League fighting game on Genesis and Super Nintendo, and Darkseid was in it. And that was my first exposure to Darkseid. I've known since a kid who Darkseid is. I mean, I've seen him more as comics have went along. The Marvel versus DC comics in the 90s, that big event, Darkseid is a big part of that. Like, I'm familiar with who Darkseid is. I don't know anything about Steppenwolf. And so they could have told the exact same story, and gotten better results, because the stakes would have been raised if it had been Darkseid.
Well, I mean, I think it was all about a purpose served, and that, I mean, if you're really the big bad and like one of your lieutenants can go and easily, do whatever needs to be done, then why would you get off your chair? I mean, really. So the fact they sent him, it was also really important for these group of a now cohesive unit of heroes that have gathered just to repel this particular threat. It's important to see them succeed their first time. Yeah, they come together. They're able to
handle this.
Not only like force him back, but they basically defeated him. Yeah, and then he gets, the parademons all swarm him, but he doesn't die. He goes back up a boom tube and goes.
Essentially. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I believe the plan is whatever, that Steppenwolf is part 1. This was going to be a part 2 movie, or 2-part movie, and then it'd be Darkseid, and I'm okay with that. But I don't see anything the typical like teases now of like Darkseid knowing that would have been we'll get to that in a minute about after credit sequences. That would have been a more effective after credit sequence for this movie had they just went and shown Darkseid, at least like a grin, or I mean, maybe I'm playing off too much about Thanos, but I was gonna say I have to go do it myself. That would have been a straight up rip off of the Marvel movies, but right now
especially if you picked up a glove and
picked up a glove and everything, yeah. But the parademons, I mean, they were about, I guess, as effective as the monkeys on Wizard of Oz. I mean, like
I get that.
They're not. They're just placeholder villain types. They're like Chitauri and Avengers. I mean, like nobody. You might have, as far as action figures go, you might have a parademon action figure, but nobody's like, "Mommy, get me that." Like, there's nothing really to care about that. It's nameless, and so there's nothing there. But I thought that obviously they are all CGI. They might have been a little more effective had they had one that wasn't. When you have those close-up shots, had a practical face. Steppenwolf was all CGI. And to the credit of Ciarán Hinds, the guy that did the voice, maybe mocap for him, I thought he was perfectly serviceable in the role. But there's just not a familiarity with Steppenwolf. I don't care about Steppenwolf. I care about Darkseid. I just don't care about Steppenwolf. So that just makes the movie a little hobbled in that way. But after credit sequences, who did we see?
We get to see Deathstroke first. You get to see like the hilt of his swords on his back. Then he shows up and actually talks and takes off his mask, and he looks just like Deathstroke from in comics and stuff, like straight off, which was amazing. And then we see the god awful.
I know. That's why I said that.
The first line out of his mouth is going right back to where he was in Batman vs Superman. I've come to watch God rise from the grave. And I'm like, oh yeah. You please quit with your introduction to philosophy lines. I'm tired of it. He was the worst thing to happen to a character. Period. I hated it. Just cringing in my seat every time he's on. That he's shown he's not intimidating at all. He did a total, and even, I mean, as much as he got compared to Joker and like the previous Batman vs Superman
Super
film,
Friends,
Superman film, he did an exact thing Joker does when he was in Arkham. He goes there, he does the swaparoo, of somebody going in there and they look like him
and laughing I don't know, it was weird, but. It is an after credit sequence. I know some cases those kind of get redacted as far as being canon, but it's very clearly showing us that if they get to continue in their plans, that I'm guessing the next Justice League movie, if there is one, will be like a Legion of Doom. I mean, make a league of their own, you know. And honestly, like Lex could be dispatched at this point. Like and I hate to say that. Like, I know out of the two of us, I'm the Superman fan. I want Lex Luthor. Like, it hurts. It sounds
you
like
want the real Lex Luthor.
Yeah, it sounds like so bad coming from you how much you feel about it. I'm not even going to go there with how I feel about Eisenberg. And I know there are lots of people that may listen and they're like, well, you know, we love this take. Great if you do, but I hate it. I'll just put it this way. I preferred Kevin Spacey in Superman Returns, and after the last few weeks of all this stuff, it's terrible to even it's like now we even talk about Spacey, but I would rather him play Lex Luthor than Eisenberg touch this part again, because it's just such a I don't even want to call it a revisionist take. It's just like it's baseless. Like it's I'm gonna get upset. We'll have to stop the podcast. I don't want him to play it anymore. It was interesting at first at the casting. I thought, they're gonna do something. Maybe it'll work out. It didn't work out.
Yeah,
it didn't work out. So
all the criticism you get from everyone else, and you put him right back in there, the exact same as he was.
The
before.
quivering talk, and the hands, and it's like, couldn't you have learned something in prison?
That, and you throw him in. I mean, did Lex Luthor ever go to Arkham?
Was he in Arkham? Did it say Arkham?
It was Arkham.
They said Arkham.
It was
my gosh.
It was Arkham cell that he got put in.
That's so stupid.
And that's not
Arkham wasn't even. I mean, Arkham has been a thing I know for fans of comic books for years. But as far as in the popular knowledge of moviegoers and the people who be watching the movies, Arkham now has taken on this well, we got to have a prison scene. Now let's let it be Arkham. That's not how it works.
Arkham served a very specific purpose.
And why is he there? Anyways. But Cyborg, the suit, I mean, I thought it worked.
I thought it worked.
I thought it worked.
Get out. This will be my last podcast. Thanks for joining us.
No, I'll tell you why I thought it worked. I mean, you get to see it for a second. Overall in the movie, the way it's drawn, the way it's put together, I wasn't a huge fan of it. It was effective. It got it done. But when he morphed at the end to more comic book accurate Cyborg, that's what worked to me. I was like, okay, I can go there. He's modular. He always has been. He changes.
He's supposed to be a cyborg. He's supposed to be a blend of him and technology. I saw technology, not be a villain from Terminator 2. He's not supposed to morph. I mean, he looked like a even worse Power Ranger suit. This whole morphing
come on
thing.
Now. He's done such things. Have you played Injustice or watched him in animated stuff? He changes.
But it's all mechanical. His gun is coming out and it's more Iron Man.
You're more Michael. There's not Michael Bay, like a Transformer.
Don't even get that man's name involved with this.
Oh man, no. I mean, I again from the character, I was a fan of the character, and I was okay with what they did with him. But apparently, you didn't like it that much.
I didn't like the suit.
Yeah,
I had no problem with the portrayal,
actor and all.
And
his father. I want to give that out. You said Terminator. Okay, that's Joe Morton from Terminator 2. That's Dyson, man. That was awesome. And I love that they brought him into it. him being in that role, it's just this fun little twist on parts he's played before. But he's a very capable actor and like the perfect guy to play his dad.
You didn't get a whole lot of them, though.
You don't, but that's what I'm saying. I hope this doesn't all balk. I guess we can say it at the end. I don't, but I'll say a little bit now. Is that I want these movies to succeed. I really do. I care far more for the DC characters as characters than I do anybody in Marvel. Period. Like if you look at my graphic novel collection, by far you'll know that I want Batman to be the best Batman he'll ever be. I want Green Lantern to be the best Green Lantern, the best Superman. I want these characters because they're the ones I connect with most. Convoluted timelines and crisis plots and all this stuff aside, I mean, I know it's a little unwieldy.
All their storylines
but as far as the character, no. But I mean, I know it's a hard thing to get right because there's so many different ways to do it. But I want their movies to succeed because their characters resonate on a cultural level. You can't. I mean, Marvel has been having to convince people. It's like, hey, Guardians of the Galaxy, which happens to be probably my favorite series of all the movies. But hey, Guardians of the Galaxy, come and spend money on a talking raccoon and a walking tree. I mean, and so you've had to convince people to care. All you have to show is that red S, and people know exactly what you're going for. You show the bat, people know what you're going for. Even Green Lantern, there's the symbol of the ring. People know what you're going for.
How are you going to compare Justice League to Guardians of the Galaxy like they're equivalent teams on?
They're not. That's what I'm saying. It's like Justice League, this movie should have broken records, and now it's the lowest opening weekend of all these movies. I don't get it. Like, it's crazy to me, but that cultural significance beyond that, I want it to succeed. These are characters, of course, that go back to the age of our grandparents or great-grandparents. They had a familiarity with these characters that now, they're still here. And there's a reason they're here. I want them to succeed. But anyways, I'm going to get off my soapbox. Mother boxes.
I'm not familiar with them.
I wasn't really either.
I didn't.
You know what it felt like, though? Tesseract. But we've got 3 of them.
And you can combine them into a super Tesseract.
Yes, it's like we got all of them, man. No. It did. You can't help but compare Avengers and these movies because, especially when Joss Whedon got involved, they're asking for it, man.
That was funny that the first team movie of both sides is them chasing after cubes.
Yes. I mean, and quippy dialogue with cubes. Like, that's basically what it shows is he's very good at cubes. I'm going to have to go back and look at, like, Buffy and, like, Dollhouse and see, do cubes factor into these in any way? Because now I'm starting to see a running motif. But, no, the mother boxes, they were MacGuffin. I mean, they're just something to throw into the plot. Because there were 3 of them, though, it did benefit this movie. Instead of having one thing to go after, and it's like, oh no, they got the one, it did build a momentum to the plot, which did, I guess, it gave this plot a reason to be. Like, if there had been one, this movie would have been over a lot quicker. But I mean, 1 down, okay, now 2 down, now 3. There's a rhythm that comes with that. It's kind of like Harry Potter. The last Deathly Hallows, they split it into 2 movies because they had all these Horcruxes to find, and there's a natural momentum of the story that comes into that. And it may not be any accident that this is like Warner Brothers may have been like, well, it worked for Harry Potter, we're going to have 3 of them here because it's going to help the plot. I mean, who knows? Because this movie did feel like there was a lot of corporate involvement. I mean, they mandated it had to be 2 hours or less. That's crazy, considering these other movies have all been like plus, 2 hours plus. They wanted to get more people in the seats, more show times per day, and, move them through and get the money. That's obviously what that was about.
That's it, and they call them mother boxes. See, Batman thought they contained power. Wonder Woman said they were power.
Yeah.
I think they're an actual container.
Of?
Plot devices.
I wasn't ready for that. I thought he was actually going to give me an answer there.
But I would be agreeing with you. I think it was just a way for people, for Themyscira to care about what's happening in the world.
Oh, yeah.
And a reason for the Atlanteans to care about what's happening in the world. It brought everybody who was remote in their own isolated societies.
So wait, okay, I gotta ask because they had he found the mother box. Did he find it? And he had to have found it in Batman versus Superman. Where did they find that the man box, so to speak? The one that we know that one was in Atlantis. We knew one was in Themyscira. Where was the other one? Because they buried it, but I don't remember anybody finding it in any of the movies so far. Maybe I
don't remember how they said they found it. But I remember them telling the story about how they separated it from Unity into the 3 boxes back again. Mm-hmm. And then it felt like a complete shot for shot of Lord of the Rings. One went to the elves and one went to
It really did, yeah.
They all went to separate societies, and then one would go to the man, and so they don't fight over it. They buried it.
Hilarious is that the Lord of the Rings movies are made by New Line, which is Warner Brothers. So it's like they looked at their big franchises. It's like, okay, Harry Potter worked and Lord of the Rings worked. Let's see what we can do to plug it into Justice League, because there was lots of.
So we took the boxes of power and separated them to the Atlanteans and the Themyscirians.
And to man we gave the one box.
The box of power.
Oh man. But no, they were obviously a plot device in it. Hall of Justice. Okay, as that scene rolled out towards the end, I thought, because keep in mind he's been living on a lakeside penthouse type thing for Batman v Superman and the majority of this movie. Mm-hmm. That I thought, okay, Bruce is fixing to get his manor back. He's fixing to get it. It's all of a sudden it's now he's buying this as an extended man cave to turn into the Hall of Justice. No, give me a watchtower, give me some, have them crib out in the bat cave, but don't turn this mansion into the Hall of Justice. It just, I don't know. Hall of Justice is going Super Friends territory. League of the Legion of Doom at the end is going Super Friends territory. That is the worst direction you need to be going right now.
Is it though?
Oh, come on.
But that was just weird how they
that's cribbing on popular thought of all this stuff, but it's not the direction these characters need to go.
And once again, it's very anti-Batman that he gets this whole building now that the story's over,
put a table over here, and we could all sit around it.
We can all sit around and talk, and no, that's not Batman. Batman's not.
No,
about
Batman,
that
I don't want to talk. No talking.
And so we'll have a table in there with 6 chairs, and then one of them was in room for more, and he goes, "Yeah, room for more." Why is Batman on the front row of the socializing platform?
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Get all my friends. I have friends. I mean, yeah, it's crazy.
Did you catch the kind of away from that, since that was kind of a light point, but some of the other references in there,
in that scene or overall?
No, overall with Flash saying one of his special skills is he knew sign language. Well, gorilla sign language.
Yeah, that was good. There's lots of that's in there, but not all of it. I wish that I had the notebook. Sometimes we took notes as we watched them. I wish
I thought you meant the movie.
No. No. I wish I would have took some notes on it, because there are some lines. If I watch it again, I'll definitely know. But there are some reaction shots and some lines in there. It's this made the cut. Really? There was this one deal where him and Bruce and Diana are arguing about. I say arguing, but they're disagreeing about what to do with Superman, and she tells him something, and she has this look on her face, and it's never would I thought she had that face, let alone they would have included it in the cut. It just seems so out of character. And there's if you really notice it sounds like I'm nitpicking, it really does, but if you look through the movie, there's lots of little things that I don't know if it's because you have 2 directors working on this essentially, but it's this made the cut. I want to see some of that ironed out, and it would have. It took those moments took me out of the movie. But anyways, what about? We talked a little bit about Superman. Anything you want to say about Superman?
The fact that he came back and the method that they used to bring him back.
Yeah.
Because there was I believe it was Man of Steel, and correct me if I'm wrong, that he rode, essentially, or kept a missile going in a particular direction into the atmosphere, and it exploded.
Mm-hmm. And he went Bizarro.
Yeah, he went all Thriller face.
Yeah, That was Batman v Superman.
Oh, was it?
Yeah,
okay.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it was.
Either way. I mean, you had that...
Zombie Superman.
You had Zombie Superman, which he just gets some sunlight shine on him, and he's back in the game.
Like, he's ready to go. Yeah.
It's just like spinach to his Popeye. And in the fact that happened in Batman vs Superman, if you say so, that it makes it even more bizarre for me, just because like that never's mentioned. Like he's powered by the sun. That they're like, oh, he's dead. Well, let's put him in a box 6 feet underground so that he'll never see sunlight again.
And then he comes back and it's like perfectly coiffed hair and ready to go. All of that is just so weird. Like they could have had him just bust out, and the fact that he had to be like, essentially Hulk. I mean, that he had to come out, enraged at his, well, I say his teammates. They weren't teammates at that point, but they had to go all out on these heroes, and then have to be reminded of, Loris. I mean, he could have essentially just grunted her name, because that's what it felt like. He was just this like animal, more or less. And I don't know.
I thought his
character was just not handled that well. Of course, they marketed all around him. Like, either you're gonna show him in the marketing or not, but pick it, because it was like, okay, he's part of the team. He's on none of the posters. But wait, he's on that image. He's listed in the credits. He's got to be in there. Well, maybe he's just in flashbacks. And then all of a sudden you see him in the movie, and it's like, well, it's Superman. And essentially, you notice at the end, he basically resolves it himself. Like, as far as the fight scene. Like, yeah. Superman just comes in, and it's like, at that point, it's like, nobody else is needed. Like, I don't know.
And see, and I think this was a direct response to Batman vs. Superman. I think so many people got incredibly up in arms that Batman beat Superman.
He was all OP.
Yeah, and then so they went complete up. Like I said, there's no quality control.
Yeah.
At DC right now, it's if they get a negative response on it, they go the complete opposite direction. They don't tweak it. They completely throw it out the window and go with something different. Mm-hmm. Except for Lex, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But in this movie, like, Batman was pretty worthless because they didn't make him Batman.
Yeah.
In this, they tried to throw him right next to Wonder Woman and right next to Flash and Aquaman, who all have like superpowers, and like Batman helps, but he helps in his own way. Yeah. Like, would these people be together, even talking to each other, if it wasn't for Batman? And would they know as much as they know about everything if it wasn't for Batman? That's Batman's role.
Well, that's the whole reason I think that they fit him in as the leader, because he has no reason to be a part of this team. I mean, they make a joke about it, like, "What's your superpower?" Rich. I mean, that's what he says. Like, that's what he does. Like, I have the money, and that's about it. But what about the music? Because this is a point of contention for a lot of people.
Before we talk about music, that costume. Did you see Superman's costume, man?
What about it?
It was bright colors.
Oh, yeah, the color palette has been getting...
He shows up, after that just really confusing and weird scene of him first coming back and fighting the other members of the Justice League, when he finally shows up to
be a part of the team, yeah.
Because you always knew he was going to show up. But even, like, his introduction, like, showing up and, like, talking in speeches of, like, I used to believe in hope, or, like, hope used to be here, and talking just all about,
yeah,
like, what he believes in, like, I love justice, and
I love justice.
It was very Superman,
yeah,
and like a cartoon Superman, and then he goes to fight, and he looks like he's having fun. It's the first time I've seen him on screen. It looks like he's having fun.
Yeah,
and of course they make him super jacked and OP in this movie. So,
yeah, well, I mean, but that's always been the thing though with Superman. Like, it's like well, I want some friends to be around while I take care of Earth's problems.
Right. What's the use of being
why do it alone? I want to have somebody to talk to.
What's the use of being completely overpowered if people aren't around to see you?
Yeah. Well, yeah, the costume has been gradually getting brighter as these movies have went on, which is a good thing. I mean, Superman has to be visually, he's just everything Batman isn't. There's a reason it's Batman v Superman, and it's not just these ideologies, because that's always been really secondary. What always strikes on the page was the color contrasts of these characters. I mean, they're almost like a direct reflection of each other. stylistically, the way they're drawn, and that is as much as an exciting thing to do about putting them together or against each other as anything else. And so seeing them brighten his colors on his suit has been a good thing.
And you see his, I guess they kind of did a homage to Aquaman's costume a little bit when they were in the cold place, wherever it was. I don't remember now.
The cold place?
Well, when he went to first meet Aquaman, I can't remember actually where it
was.
Oh
yeah.
But he had like a real dark orangish gold.
I saw that. I thought that was good.
Sweater
I thought that was
on,
good,
which was cool. But anyway, the costume, that was. I really like to see the bright colors, and I was like, the fact that he's looked like happy and that he's helping and like it looks like he's having fun and all, it just like it just felt like Superman. Like that's what Man of Steel should have been like from the beginning.
Me and you have disagreed about Man of Steel quite a bit. I think Henry Cavill will always get a bad shake at it just because of people's contentions with Man of Steel and now Batman vs Superman. And now, like, the first time I see him in this movie, his face is all jacked up. Like, he gets a raw deal. Like, he was born to play Superman. I've said that since the moment I saw him on screen. He was a kid in Count of Monte Cristo. Whenever I heard that he was up for the role, like, that's Superman. Like, that guy, get him on workout routine, but everything about him, that is Superman. And he has never gotten a total, like, chance to just be the character as he's popularly known. Even now, like you said, you get moments of it, but he's still got a jacked up face. Like he's got this super chin
that's just
now.
CGI issues.
I realize that, but he, being that they make the movie all around him, like it's never really about him, but all around him, he still doesn't really get a shot. I need to look at the credits to see where is he listed in the terms of the cast, because like how far did he get bumped down? Because they mark it all around him. It would be interesting if he was like at the end of it and Henry Cavill, because he's not really guest starring Henry Cavill. But they need to stop what they're doing and make Man of Steel 2. Call it whatever you want to call it. But
don't call it what you want to call it. Call it Man of Steel 2.
Well, no,
and just have Superman in it.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like now
let him
where
have
he's
his own
at,
story.
where he's at, and let him have his own story again, because they have thrown him and Amy Adams and now Diane Lane as Martha for whatever reason. She gets tagged along in all these larger-than-life stories. Those two characters of Lois and Martha have no business being in these movies for what they're trying to do. And it's so distracting to go back to them. They need to have a Superman-centric movie again and let him do it. Like, get the character right.
Some people were making jokes about what the movie could have been because they said, Batman and Aquaman's dads are both called Thomas.
Why didn't that come up?
Right?
Oh, that's funny. Yeah. What about so I brought up about the music. Yeah. I guess it's kind of our last point before we close. Man, we're going a little long on this one. This is a lot to talk about this movie. But did you enjoy the music?
Yeah. I didn't. I thought it was going to be more apparent or whatever
did too.
than it was.
I did
It was just kind of hints of the theme.
Yeah.
Instead of the actual thing. I mean, you got it more so with Batman than you did Superman. With Batman, it
was much more apparent. Yeah, because it's Danny Elfman handling his own themes, I almost said regurgitating, but I guess I did. But recycling some of his old stuff. For a lot of people, that theme is quintessential because it informed the animated series as well. So those same types of notes and how they're played, very much for a lot of folks are Batman. And so to hear it again was really cool. I thought I was going to get this, and if we got it, I don't know how, but because I didn't pick up on it, but I thought we were going to get this swelling John Williams, dun 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 dun, dun. We were going to get it.
No.
We did not. And I've heard, it's reminiscent of. No, that's not what you said. They said he's going to take the John Williams score and use it again. If he'd come back on the scene to that, I'm telling you, I would have been up in my seat, awesome. So yeah, if that was going on, not only is it it just builds, but I don't know, that is such a crowd pleasing moment with the music, and it's so ingrained in pop culture that that would have been great, but it just was not immediately apparent to me, like in the moment. Like it kind of took me out a little bit. Maybe it was anticipation that built up because of the way it was reported, but I think it's a missed opportunity. Like if you're going to use it, use it.
And we got Wonder Woman's theme in the beginning.
Yeah, which is weird because at this point now, this theme, if they had played off with John Williams even more so, it would have been evocative of scores by some of the greats: John Williams, Danny Elfman, Hans Zimmer. But another point though that we haven't got to talk about though is that the original score for Justice League was done by Junkie XL, who did, I don't know who that is. What a name, right? But Junkie XL, but he helped Hans Zimmer
plus size junkie. That's
plus size junkie. He did the score. But you have this
sounds very Joss Whedon.
But Joss Whedon cut that out and hired Danny Elfman to do the score, and that's when it come into playing off the old themes and all that. But Junkie XL's main theme for Justice League is on YouTube. I listened to it yesterday. It's very different. Like it's much more. It's not electronic, but like it's a completely different feel to what Danny Elfman has done, evoking not just his themes. I guess it is his themes, but when you look at his themes, he didn't just do Batman. He also did Spider-Man and the other like early Marvel movies. Like he was involved in those prior to the MCU. So yeah, it was very, like the term, generic superhero music. And Junkie XL did not do that. Whoever you may be, Junkie XL, that's quite a name.
Right.
But yeah, the music could have been better. I thought it was going to be much more integral to the movie than it turned out to be. But I guess that's a good spot to stop. We're going to let you know, of course, as we do every episode, where to find us. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram by searching for @GeeksAssemble. Facebook at facebook.com/GeeksAssemble podcast. You can find our community group on Facebook, which is facebook.com/groups/GeeksAssemble podcast. And of course, our hosting site is podcastgarden.com/podcast/GeeksAssemble. We're on Google Play, we're on iTunes, we're on Stitcher, and maybe more platforms as time goes on. But we appreciate everyone who's listening. Continue to let us know what you think. Review us on those platforms if you can. We appreciate each and every one of you. Make your voice be known in the Citadel. We love to hear from you. So I'm Colby.
I'm Chance.
And until next time.